Just when the world's most controversial renegade royals thought the indignities leveraged against them by the firm had finally ebbed, Buckingham Palace landed one more utterly gobsmacking parting shot from its late matriarch. In a move sure to reignite the transatlantic tantrums of Prince Harry and wife Meghan, none other than Princess Anne herself took center stage to unveil what she described as Queen Elizabeth's finalized spiritual manifesto, specifically addressing the Sussexes' defection. And if the Princess Royal's stunningly savage excerpts are to be believed, the dearly departed sovereign gave the departed duo one final ceremonial flogging unlike anything the Windsors had unleashed before. My sister was never one to mince words or couch even the most intimate family reproaches behind veiled platitudes when blunt tongue lashings were required, the 72-year-old princess declared during an uncharacteristically emotional address from the Berkshire countryside estate she shares with husband Sir Tim Lawrence. So there's no doubt in my mind Elizabeth meant every last syllable of the brutal wig-snatching contained within these parting remarks as her righteously vexed final torching of the Montecito Megrams who dealt our family's customs such grievous indignities. With that fatefully varnished intro, and then brandished a tome she described as the official royal spiritual transcript painstakingly hand-recorded in the Queen's own calligraphic script during her declining years. The septuagenarian equestrian quickly did away with any pretense of decorum as she launched into a series of purported direct quotes sure to provoke gobsmacked gasps from Buckingham ceremonial halls to Californian glam huts alike. That reckless, tawdry, self-undressed Duchess Shrew and her similar puffed-up Cabbage Patch wastrel both shan't ever bear legitimate birthright to the slightest whiff of regal or aristocratic standing henceforth in our noble dominion, and recited in the Queen's dignified yet steely parlance. For upon birthing those two wretched, muddied roots Banshuan spawn from her despoiled, dehymenated harlot's furrow into our formerly pristine Aryan bloodline, this disgraced American sluice unforgivably sun-dried any possible remaining tinctures of crown sanctity wrongly bestowed upon this embarrassment to our lineage. Even for a royal renegade as unshockable as Anne, the acid-laced severity toward Meghan and her issue appeared to weigh on the princess, who paused several times to regain composure. I must admit, I did briefly wonder if my sister may have struggled under particular strained mental diminishments by this transcript's end, and confided between excerpts. But knowing her crystalline faculties and faithful subscription to bloodline primacy above all else, these scorching verdicts likely sprang from nothing short of her quintessential lucidity and conviction. Indeed, the princess assured listeners the Queen's rhetorical flames were just achieving liftoff according to the manifesto's next few annotated passages. Having thoroughly raised Meghan's outsider lineage and offspring as intolerable bastardizations, Her Majesty then appeared to reserve her most scathing animus for the self-inflicted identity desecrations of her rogue grandson-in-law. As for that traitorous, unmanned, disloyal leaking lump she perversely wed, he may have been birthed a semi-legitimate prince amongst our realm's diaper aristos, and steadily read. But Harry's chosen devolved debasement into some lurid, maundering, Spotify-soiled, New Age therapist, shall forevermore brand him the ickily insolvent idiot underling of our court. A festering royal turncoat who so willingly and selfishly exiled his begots into forever permanent surname namelessness, no better than Romany pikeys roving the Malvern ditches when Britannia sprawled in peace across 3 continents at our dynastic apex. With each passing excerpt, the Princess Royal seemed to grow visibly more impassioned, as if reciting these searing words proved slowly cathartic for her own long-standing private contempt toward the duplicitous Duke and Duchess. Next, Elizabeth's manifesto progressed toward outright geopolitical ridicule aimed at the Sussexes' alleged self-negating antics and humanitarian pretensions. How richly ironic that this pair of preening pretender-class bandersnatches dared imagine themselves renegades or victims after our most generous indulgences, roared a freshly animated Anne, practically sputtering flecks of spittle from the corner of her lip. Ginger's grasping half-wit fumbled our entire storied legacy into near-ruinous circus for an utterly unremarkable, opportunistic harpy who'd fare more fittingly as an aggressively underwritten secretary wench in some forgettable mid-90s bootylicious film rap. As the shocking soliloquy cascaded to its climactic passages, Elizabeth's unfiltered fury seemed to erupt into outright horror toward the Sussexes as a perceived existential threat to her family's legacy and monarchical standing. This spiritually wanton concubine's full infiltration shall certainly represent the ultimate credo-smashing termitic infestation swarming over everything we nobly upheld in our sacred calling, and declaimed, now appearing to vibrate with incensed indignation echoing her late sister. Depraved dollops of mixed doggery-bred miscegenation soiling the crown's unbowed global might from its very own wombed footstool, permitting such inseminated genetic defiling to metastasize would only signal our inevitable dynastic decay to the greater global stage, dissolution and dimitude even more catastrophic than the American Revolution and Indian Mutiny combined. For several hushed moments following the conclusion, I visibly drained and simply stared forlornly down at the manuscript before breaking the audible tensions with a fatigued clearing of her throat. I must confess, my sister grew more delirious and embittered than I could have ever tragically witnessed toward her sad mortal end. She sighed in regretful resignation. But regardless, I have neither the authority nor inclination to disrespect her final charges regarding those reprehensible American interlopers who committed such irreversible betrayals upon our 1,000-year-old monarchy in its twilight. Response on both sides of the Atlantic arrived swift and thunderous following an ceremonial diatribe, though hardly unified in denouncing the manifesto's scorched-earth fusillade of reputed Elizabethan rage. Commentators ranging from Piers Morgan to Ghislaine Maxwell immediately piled rhetorical kindling upon the royal rebuke's bonfire by adding their own sneering condemnations of the so-called Montecito mountebanks. Of course, none of her harshest criticisms should have been even remotely surprising to that grifter duchess, considering her rap sheet of backstabbing a long line of past relations even before she weaseled her way into Buckingham, seethed Maxwell in a voicemail recording from her Floridian captivity. The Queen had every nobility-soaked right to regard Meghan as a cancerous pathogen infiltrating the palace linens like some savage Wakandan gutter-blood wench. Media figures even less directly associated with the late sovereign weighed in to applaud the uncompromising severity of the manifesto's disgraced broadsides toward the self-exiling royals. I'd be shocked if any of the great, revered rulers of antiquity went any easier on such flagrantly unrepentant defectors from their imperial dominions, reasoned Samuel Brissett Watkins, author of Sovereign Supremacy, Western Civilization's Debt to Enlightened Monarchy. Why should Her Majesty have tempered that righteous umbrage toward these two menaces who reduced Britannia's crown jewels to a mere ethnic identity hustle for monetizing click-through eyeballs like commoners? But for their own part, the Duchess and Duke of Sussex quickly mobilized an equally fierce defense campaign from their Montecito compound, one portraying the manifesto as yet another cruel gaslight upon their perpetual victimhood at England's ancestral bloodline cults. We're witnessing yet another